What's up? Test. What is it? Why is it popping? Can you hear the pop? Oh no. Oh no, really? Pop, pop, test, test, test. Come on, smooth out. Smooth out, baby. Unbelievable. I don't understand. Hold on. Oh, I think I got it. Test, 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 test. Is that any better? Nope. Still here. Hold on. I might have to change microphones. Give me a second here. Is that any better? Nope. I can still hear a pop. Why do I still hear a pop? This is gonna drive me nuts. Hold on. Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna leave and come back. I hope that test. I don't know why I have these problems. It's just like very annoying. Testing, test. Is it better now? We'll see. We'll do it live. Here we go. Okay, sorry about that. Welcome to the lab, everybody. I'm your host. You're very disgruntled. You're very disgruntled host. I'm not as disgruntled as Nanos is going to be, but still very annoyed. Sorry about that. And yeah, blame Nanos. That's right. Anyway, great to see you guys. I really enjoyed myself on the interview room last night. Chat was a tad brutal on some parts, which, you know, it's just like, I'm not a fan of this format. It's like, okay, whatever. But you know, people get very upset with new things going on, and anyway, but I had a good time, and thank you to anybody that's new that's here. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about, as McDonough would call them, it was a rough crowd, but they weren't like, most of the people were really good, but they weren't overtly, not all, there were some, but most people weren't super rude. They're just like, I'm not I'm not a fan of this. I'm leaving. I don't like, and you just like, you do what you can, and you just try your best, and you go from there. But I will share a quick story with you as people are coming in, and then we'll get to the Nonads memorandum. Somebody called him Bananas. Yeah, I'm certainly not trying to. That's for sure. Look, we worked on the thing was we worked on that. We worked to set it up, and it was I thought Chris did really well for his first time, especially with that many people. Well, that's what normal people do, is they if they don't like something, they just go somewhere else. I mean, it's not the end of the world. That's right, Rusty. Haters are gonna hate. But that's what normal people do. Haters are gonna hate. That's right, NJ. Corn Pop was a bad dude. And Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran with some bad boys. I thought it was cool. And like I said, I thought Chris, he took every single call. It was unbelievable. I mean, the guy's got more. He's like, I think we were all hurting by the end, and he was just like soaring through it, man. But anyway, I thought it was good too. I liked it. I thought it was good, and I thought it's a good forum. It's not like that's what the interview room is going to be from now on. It was just sometimes they'll do that. People get really excited to talk to Chris and Gary and those guys. So I think it's a nice thing. And anyway, yes, it was a 5-hour show. I think I've only done one other 5-hour show. I've done 4-hour shows. I've done 4.5-hour shows. I've never done I've done one 5-hour show, and I think that was New Year's. Maybe the 2 New Year's one. And we're happy to have you as well. Coming in from Justin. Shout out. Clutching them pearls. Just coming in thumbnail. You like that? It's going to play into a little bit of what we're talking about, but Well, yeah, you can't really lose your patience, but see him kept his kind demeanor for 5 hours. Should get a medal. He did great. 2.5 hours, or so you're 2.5 hours in. Anyway, that's awesome. I'm going to tell you a quick story about what happened to me yesterday, and then we'll get into, well, it didn't just happen to me, it happened to poor little Otis as well. But um, so yesterday morning, I, for those of you that don't know, I have a little French, I have two French bulldogs. One is the son and one's the father. I am not the Holy Ghost, but one is the son, one is the father. And Otis is the little guy, and he's the mischievous one, and he's extremely mischievous, like to a fault. Like he's always getting into stuff. It's just um annoying, you know. But I go, so we go to sleep. I wake up. It's about 6 a.m, and he's very uncomfortable. You know, you could tell he's not simmering, he's not sitting, he tries to lay down, but he can't. So I'm going, who knows? Who knows what's going on here? Because there's always something with him. It's always something. And he just opened his eyes. And so he's, so I'm going, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? And then he sort of scooted up next to me in the bed and was laying really close to me. And he usually never does that unless he doesn't feel good. So he wasn't feeling good. So I had no idea why he wasn't feeling good. He looks at me and he's tired. And all of a sudden I can just, when he sleeps, he makes almost no sound at all, like zero. And he was making sort of this wheezing, like it was a very slight wheezing noise. It's like, I was just like, what the hell is that? Like, so I put my ear up to him. I can hear it. I'm like, okay, maybe he's got like a kennel cough, because I have had kennel cough before. All of us had kennel cough. And so I'm sitting there, and he's just laying there, and he doesn't feel good. It's like, oh God, here we go. He can't get to sleep. And I can't sleep. I have that like sick feeling in my stomach. So finally I just sit up and I look at him and I said, what's in there? Just like that. And his eyes go like this. I said, something's in there. What is it? And he just kind of backs up a little bit. And I said, I'm going in. I'm going in, dude. I cannot sit here. I'm going in. There's something in there, and I want to know what it is, and it's got to come out. And so I reach my hand in, and I just pry his mouth open, and I get my finger in there, and I could feel something. It's not very big. I don't know what it is, but I don't want to keep my finger in there for too long, and I just can't. And then he bites me. All right. Bites me and scratches me because I hit the back of his throat, and he clamped down. So I'm just like, God, that sucks. That sucked. So he's still making the noise. Still making the noise. And finally, I said, if I can't get it out, it's going down. I'm yelling timber. I take my hand and I shove it and I got it and I pushed it. I could feel it. It goes down. He bites me again. And then he jumps up and goes, and he was fine. He was fine. And then he crapped it out today. It was a piece of a straw. Like he had broken off. I don't know where he got the straw from. Probably out of one of the guard. Like he tries to stand up. If somebody leaves the lid off of the trash can, he'll get up there. He sneaks things. And so anyway, he crapped it out. And it was miserable. It was miserable. So anyway. So yeah, he got me pretty good. There, under. So, and then we took a nice, beautiful 1 hour nap together. Yeah, it wasn't a drug straw. I never used one before. It was a straw from, I knew the kind of straw it was because it was from Wingstop. So anyway, he's fine. He's perfectly fine. And then he was trying to get into stuff today. I don't know if I saved his life. Maybe it was going down eventually, but it sucked. It was a terrible, terrible situation. And but now he's good. He's back to his bulldog way. And you know, I tried to get it out of there. I tried to get it, but it was too far. But I just went. It's got to go down somehow. I had the vet on speed dial, but anyway, he's fine. I'm banged up, and you know, he felt so bad about biting me. He's been trying to lick my hand all day. Like I'm, you know, but he would never do that on purpose. So anyway, all right, so back to the NADS situation. No NADS. We'll start off with the chairman of the board in the Nancy Guthrie, in Pima County, but he has nothing to do with the Nancy Guthrie investigation. Let's see here. Nanos does, but this guy, I can't remember exactly what his title is, but I will show you here. And then we're going to go over his 12-page written response. That's right. Back to NADS, Eric. I mean, this guy, there's no way that this guy should be the sheriff. When you hear this, you're going to go, I'm sure some of you have, but you're just going to be like, holy crap, I cannot.
Investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance is nearing the 3-month mark tonight, with no new leads, no arrests, and most importantly, no sign of Nancy Guthrie. Skepticism and scrutiny of the investigation, on the other hand, are in abundance, particularly regarding Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos. Since there is no progress to report, many are asking why. And now it's more than just bad PR. Sheriff Nanos is the focus of a probe himself. and it could cost him his job. It's not for his.
Nobody likes to get probed like that and then lose their job. Second here. this guy's a piece of work. Hey.
Present actions, however, with the Guthrie investigation, it's rather about allegations in his past. The Pima County Board of Supervisors is leading the investigation after reports that Sheriff Nanos misrepresented his work history on his resume while he was at the El Paso Police Department before he joined Pima County's. The board demanded Nanos disclose all circumstances about his departure from the El Paso department and to clarify the dates of his employment as well as any prior disciplinary actions. Nanos' attorney responded yesterday with a 22-page document. It reads in part that whatever the sheriff did or did not do before being elected is necessarily unrelated to his performance of his duties in office.
No, come on. I mean, that's not true. Is it? That can't be true. It's not true. How could that possibly be?
Whether others agree remains to be seen. The board will review the sheriff's answers in an executive session in a few weeks. For more, we're joined by Dr. Matthew Hines, Vice Chair for the Pima County Board of Supervisors. Matthew, it's great to have you. Did he refuse to answer the questions about disciplinary action that was taken against him at the El Paso Police Department?
Yeah, it certainly seems pretty problematic to me. I mean, I've reviewed his responses with my team, with some other lawyers as well, and I'm certainly not satisfied with these responses. And what he did in El Paso, I mean, one of the things he was suspended for, 37 days of suspension in El Paso. 15 of those days occurred after he beat almost to death a handcuffed robbery suspect who was in the back of a squad car with a flashlight. He's a bad cop.
He's a bad cop. He beat somebody with a flashlight who was in handcuffs that was in the ICU. Wow.
Really bad decisions and then lied about his past to convince then Pima County officials to hire him back in 1984. He also lied about that gap in time. He used to say 1982, so that got changed. Mm-hmm. But the point here is this man, we shouldn't even know his name. We should not know the name Nanos. He has perpetrated a fraud for 4 decades upon my community, and it is, frankly, it's shameful and insulting to the 1,500 men and women of that amazing law enforcement agency that he heads currently. Every day he walks in the door.
That story of beating a suspect who was handcuffed with a flashlight until you say beat him nearly to death. Were there charges filed? I mean, that would certainly seem to call for some criminal charges.
I don't look. The El Paso Police Department was sued over this matter, and eventually that was one of the things that led the El Paso Police Department to force him to resign in lieu of termination. That gentleman was put in the ICU for days, and there were multiple news.
So how, I don't understand how he gets to retire, or he gets to resign instead of being prosecuted. Because if anybody else, if I would beat somebody with a mag light almost to death, if you were to do that, if any of us were to do that, we would go to prison for felony assault. Prison. Probably a 5-year sentence, maybe more. That's a wild thing to let somebody just resign from their job. This wasn't even somebody who was like a threat to him, it sounds like. He was handcuffed
stories about that at the time when it happened.
What do you make? I mean, he is saying, look, whatever I did or didn't do decades ago has nothing to do with how I'm leading the Guthrie investigation and how I'm currently serving as sheriff of Pima County. You clearly don't buy that.
Not at all. Look, these actions are incredibly significant. The fact that he came to Pima County and the first official act that he did here was to lie about his history, and that's how he got peace officer certification. Nobody can be serving in law enforcement at any level in the state of Arizona unless they get peace officer certification, and he could not have possibly revealed that history to the board at the time that this happened, that he got a job. And that means he perpetrated a fraud for decades upon the people of my community.
And how do you think he has handled the Nancy Guthrie investigation? As you know, there's been a lot of questions about how we handled the crime scene, how we handled the DNA evidence. What is your assessment?
So I'm a physician and a supervisor on the board. I am not in law enforcement, but I will say relationships in these kinds of situations matter and time matters. And I say that because it is pretty clear that his past run-ins with the Federal Bureau of Investigation back in 2015, when he was almost indicted for RICO charges at the time, which they did not end up going forward with, he has held a grudge against the...
He was almost indicted with RICO charges. RICO charges by the FBI. They didn't go forward with it, but he was almost in. Let's hear. I want to hear that again.
FB coach with the Federal Bureau of Investigation back in 2015, when he was almost indicted for RICO charges at the time, which they did.
How does it? I mean, I don't know.
Did not end up going forward with. He has held a grudge against the FBI and refused to fully work with them going forward. And I think we see examples of the results of that with regard to the most recent high-profile investigation.
And perhaps maybe jeopardized elements of that, do you think? Yes or no?
Very possible.
Matthew Hines, keep us posted. Very important what you're saying. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
I'm not gonna get Cuomo'd here. But let's dive into this really quick here. So this is for the Board of Supervisors, the guy that you saw who's sort of in charge of this. Nanos has responded through a lawyer to some of these questions. And as you can see, he's got a lawyer. I believe the lawyer is given to him through the county. So he's allowed to, he has a lawyer that's going to, respond for him, which is, I guess, normal. This is dated yesterday or the day before. So the 21st. So the honorable chair and members, Pima County Board of Supervisors. Response from Sheriff Nanos. I'm sharing the attached report received on April 21st, 2026 from Fraser, Ryan Goldberg, and Arnold LLP. This document includes Sheriff Chris Nanos' response to a series of written questions requested by the Pima County Board of Supervisors. So somebody's got him by the nuts here. This is who it's seed to or CC'd. Send via email. Okay, we don't need to see that. Okay. Dear Patrick and Mark, I have been engaged to represent Sheriff Chris Nanos in the connection with the Pima County Board of Supervisors inquiry detailed in your letter dated April 7th. So that's when they asked for it, April 7th, 2026. In the interest of promoting clarity and ensuring an accurate public record, because that's what Nanos is all about, Sheriff Nanos accepts the board's invitation to respond in writing. Of course, he wouldn't do it in, he wouldn't stand up there. Why not just stand up there in front of the Board of Supervisors and blurt shit out like you did about everything else in the Nancy Guthrie case? I'm sure they'd give you a microphone. You could wear your uniform probably. I have consulted extensively with Sheriff Nanos about the topics raised in your letter and am authorized to provide the following responses on his behalf. Topic number 1, the sheriff's employment history. At the outset, allow me to note that ARS 11-253 does not authorize an unlimited inquisition. Rather, Sheriff Nanos is only obliged to report on those matters connected with the duties of his office. Great. The sheriff's duties are defined by ARS 11-441. They include keeping the peace, arresting and detaining those suspected of criminal activity, preventing and suppressing riots or insurrections, securing county courthouses, overseeing and operating the county jail, and effectuating service of process. That is all. Okay. This is CAR 11-441A 1 through 8. The sheriff's statutory duties are distinct from those of a sworn peace officer regulated by the Arizona Peace Officer Standards and Training Board. Wow. The distinction is significant because it confirms the sheriff's employment history is irrelevant to the performance of his duties as an elected official. Now, I would say that that can't be true, because if he has to work with the FBI and he has a compromised relationship with the FBI, which is what it sounds like, Sheriff Flashlight here, who was almost indicted but was not indicted, so that's nice, that's good, I guess, that he wasn't. If he has a problem with the feds and he has to rely on the feds, he cannot do his job properly, ever. So that would be something that I think I would take issue with as somebody that worked on the board of supervisors. Likewise, giving testimony in a civil lawsuit and managing the department's website are not among the duties of his office. Oh, wait a minute. Nevertheless, in the interest of transparency and in the spirit of cooperation, because he doesn't have a choice, the sheriff has authorized me to respond to the board's questions as follows. The circumstances of Sheriff Nanos' departure from El Paso Police Department. All right. Sheriff Nanos resigned from the El Paso Police Department in 1982. At the time of his resignation, he held the rank of corporal. His resignation came in the wake of a dispute with the supervisor over the towing of vehicles. The supervisor wanted to impose a 3-day suspension for the insubordination. Sheriff Nanos appealed the recommended discipline to the chief, who found in favor of the supervisor. Rather than accept the 3-day suspension, Sheriff Nanos offered to resign in lieu of discipline. The chief accepted his offer, and Sheriff Nanos resigned. He resigned over towing vehicles, is what they said. Okay. Right. Wow. Okay. The sheriff dates of employment as reflected in the application material, resumes and prior testimony. All documents Sheriff Nanos submitted to the county when he applied show his dates of employment with the El Paso Police Department were from 1976 to 1982, which is accurate for the board's reference. I have attached a copy of the resume Sheriff Nanos submitted in Exhibit 1. Some time ago, Sheriff Nanos was alerted that the department's website incorrectly stated he was employed with the El Paso Police Department from 1976 to 1984. And I don't know what the significance of the 8 years and the 6 years would be, but it has to be pension related. I mean, that's just my assumption. Or, you know, I don't know. You have to probably have a certain amount of days or years or something. I mean, there's a reason why he lied about it. You don't miss by 2 years on job history, especially when you know why you resigned from a job specifically because you beat the hell out of somebody with a flashlight and towed their car. I mean, I don't know. They're saying it has something to do with towing cars, but it doesn't. Yes, he was a boxer too. Some time ago, Sheriff Nanos was upon learning of the error, which was recent, by the way. Sheriff Nanos immediately instructed staff to correct it. God bless him. Since then, all staff have been instructed that any biographical date about the sheriff, including in public facing communications, must be reviewed for accuracy and approved by his office prior to publication. It's a day late and $1 short there, bud. Number 3, the sheriff's prior disciplinary history, including suspensions. This one ought to be good. Let me get a sip of coffee before the. Oh, that's good. That is good. All right. This ought to be interesting. Some time ago. Oh, wait, sorry. First, I must reiterate that sheriff's minimal disciplinary history is irrelevant to the performance of his official duties. The sheriff was subject of a robust public. The sheriff was the subject of a robust public scrutiny. Okay. During the election and the public record includes information about his decorated career as a sworn peace officer. Armed with this information, the voters of Pima County elected him as sheriff. Whatever the sheriff did or did not do before being elected is necessarily unrelated to. So we've heard this. Notwithstanding, all one word, the impropriety of this question, the sheriff has authorized me to respond as follows. While employed, so basically what he's saying is, it's none of your friggin' business, but I'm going to answer anyway. That's what he's saying. Remember, this guy has a problem with the feds who he has to work with, and he doesn't like it. While employed with the El Paso Police Department, Sheriff Nanos was the subject of various disciplinary actions, which included counseling, reprimands, and suspensions. That discipline and the actions that gave rise to it happened more than 4 decades ago. You know, I heard a lot of that when they would hunt down Nazis. I'm not saying that he's a Nazi. I'm just saying that that was it happened 4 decades ago. Anyway, that discipline and action follows gave rise to it happened more than 4 decades ago. The sheriff has little specific recollection of those events. He has amnesia. It doesn't say amnesia. However, the sheriff notes when he applied with the county in 1984, he was subject to a standard background check, which included completion of the county job application, interviews of his past employers, and personal references, an oral interview, a psychological evaluation, and polygraph testing. Moreover, before he became a certified peace officer in Arizona, his fitness to serve and employment history were thoroughly reviewed by the ALEOAC. I don't know what that is. At every step in his hiring process, the sheriff was truthful and forthcoming. Last, I am aware of media reports suggesting Sheriff Nanos was somehow dishonest in sworn deposition testimony he gave in the matter of Cross versus Nanos. Not so. In the deposition, the sheriff was asked, "Have you ever received discipline as a law enforcement officer?" He responded, "Yes." In follow-up questions, he was asked, "Did you ever receive a discipline that rose to the level of suspension?" He responded, "No." Bad faith media reports have discovered this testimony from its context to suggest Sheriff Nanos was untruthful about his disciplinary history with the El Paso Police Department. But I don't understand. So he said no, but the answer is yes. I said no, it's yes. Fake news. Wow, what fake news. But context matters. Both immediately before and immediately after, questions about whether he had ever been suspended, Sheriff Nanos was questioned about the Arizona Peace Officers Bill of Rights. As you know, the Peace Officers Bill of Rights details the substantive and procedural due process rights afforded to Arizona law enforcement officers. Wow. Fake news. Fake news. I hate when the fake news takes things out of context. I said, wow, they always take me out of context. It's 100% correct that the sheriff was never suspended during his 4 decades of decorated and faithful service with Pima County Sheriff's Department, PCSD. However, Sheriff Nanos was suspended more than 40 years ago while employed by El Paso Police Department. In the context of his live deposition, Sheriff Nanos did not understand, I'm losing steam here, the questions related to discipline with different agencies not governed by Arizona Peace Officers Bill of Rights. In reviewing the transcript shortly after his deposition, Sheriff Nanos spotted his misunderstanding. It was a misunderstanding, and promptly notified his attorney. I'm sure he did. For the board's reference, I have attached the relevant excerpt from his deposition. Transcripts, Exhibition 2, topic number 2, the Lappin and Cross disciplinary actions. Really can't do the cliff notes because I don't know what's all in here. Sorry. Does this suck? Before responding substantively, I must note that both Sergeant Cross and former Lieutenant Lappin have filed lawsuits against the sheriff in connection with the discipline they received following sustained findings of misconduct. Both lawsuits are ongoing. Because this topic touches on active litigation against the county. Any discussions about it should take place in executive session. Moreover, the sheriff must be mindful of the impact of his public statements in response. Sorry, hold on. Mindful of his impacts, public statement in his response to this inquiry could have on the litigation. I am quite certain the county in these cases where none currently exist. In addition, personnel matters are typically confidential. It would not be appropriate to discuss the allegations or findings against former Lieutenant Lappin and Sergeant Cross, nor the department's internal investigative process in this public forum. Notwithstanding these considerations, the sheriff has authorized me to respond as follows. It's always with the preamble. Please hit that like button. How many likes do we have? I need likes here. Hold on. 281. 600 people watching me read like a jerk. Okay. The disciplinary process for Pima County Sheriff's Department employees is rooted in a long settled county policy and well-documented department policy and procedures. Both Sergeant Cross and former Lieutenant Lappin were suspected of violating department and county policy. Consistent with the longstanding department policy, those reports of misconduct were investigated by Internal Affairs and presented to the Pima County Sheriff's Department Disciplinary Review Panel. The panel was comprised of members of the Pima County Sheriff's Department, command staff, the Pima County Sheriff Department legal advisor, a member of the county attorney's office, members of the Pima County Sheriff Department legal advisors, a member of the county attorney's office, members from Pima County Sheriff Citizen Advisory Review Board, and various department employees association members. After hearing the evidence, the panel what is this? Hold on. The sheriff's confusion is more than understandable since the cross litigation centers on disciplinary process that began in 2024 that was governed by Arizona. So this is the guy that he put on desk duty, right? Is that who we're talking about here? Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. The sheriff's personal experience with disciplinary process 40 years ago in a different state could have to cross his claims. Okay. Unanimously sustain the complaints as discipline. The panel recommended a letter of reprimand for former Lieutenant Lappin and the termination for Sergeant Cross. And I think she was somebody who ran away. Didn't run away. I think she ran for sheriff or was running for sheriff against him. I think that's what was going on there. For Sergeant Cross, because the panel recommended discipline for Sergeant Cross involved termination, it was reviewed by Sheriff Nanos per policy. During that review, Sergeant Cross provided a statement admitting he had violated policy as found by the panel and requested leniency. Specifically, Sergeant Cross asked the sheriff to issue a former letter of reprimand in lieu of termination because Sergeant Cross appeared to be taking responsibility for his misconduct. Sheriff Nanos reduced the discipline from termination to a letter of reprimand over the objections of his command staff. Despite getting exactly what he wanted and heedless of his own admissions, Sergeant Cross immediately grieved to lenient discipline he received. Former Lieutenant Laban likewise appealed. The twin grievances, I've never heard that before. Twin grievances. Oh man. Were submitted to County Human Resources Director Kathy Boland, and the grievance committee conducted an independent investigation of both disciplinary decisions. Following that independent investigation, the grievance committee recommended the county administration uphold the discipline. The county administrator adopted the recommendations and denied both grievances. Unbelievable. The implication that the discipline given to Sergeant Cross was somehow retaliatory, or uneven is absurd and unfair. Sergeant Cross was disciplined as a result of a sustained finding that he violated the Hatch Act, but he never beat somebody. He never beat somebody with a flashlight, from what I've heard. Indeed, before any discipline was ever contemplated, Sergeant Cross was notified that his off-duty behavior violated the department's policy and federal law, and was informally counseled on how to continue his protected speech activity without violating policy. Sergeant Cross ignored that advice and continued to break federal law in violation of department policy. His conduct was reviewed by a diverse panel of independent fact finders, all one word, fact finder, who unanimously concluded that he had violated the Hatch Act. I'm not sure what the Hatch Act is. I've heard of the Hatch Act. Those independent adjudicators recommended he be terminated, and an abundance of generosity and good faith, belief in Sergeant Cross, good faith. That's right. You heard it here. He had accepted responsibility for his actions. Sheriff Nanos granted Sergeant Cross's request for leniency and reduced his termination to a mere letter of reprimand. In response, Sergeant Cross immediately reversed course, recanted his acceptance of responsibility. It's a good move. And grieved the discipline he requested. Even before the committee rejected his grievance, Sergeant Cross filed a lawsuit. Any suggestion that Sheriff Nanos retaliated against Sergeant Cross by sparing him from termination, as his peers recommended, blinks at reality. You guys still with me here? Likewise, any suggestion of impropriety or uneven application of departmental policy in connection with former Lieutenant Laban's disciplinary process lacks a basis. In fact, former Lieutenant Laban was suspended of multiple violations of Pima County Sheriff Department policy based on credible evidence merited investigation. So, in abundance of caution and keeping with department policy, former Lieutenant Laban was placed on administrative leave with pay pending completion of the investigation. What's the Hatch Act? The Hatch Act restricts the partisan political activities of federal, DC, and certain state, local law to ensure government services are administered in a nonpartisan manner. Right. Let's see. Thank you for that. So pay pending. So basically, I guess they were holding without pay. Which is amazing. I don't know how they're allowed to do that. While on paid leave, former Lieutenant Lapin was subject to precisely the same policies and requirements as any other department employee on administrative leave. Although she was required to remain available during her normal working hours, her freedom of movement was not restricted, subject only to long-standing departmental requirements governing paid administrative leave. Likewise, although she was ordered not to discuss the ongoing investigation consistent with the department policy, she was free to engage in all other protected speech activity, including continuing to campaign, sorry, I lost my spot. Likewise, I'm free to engage all protected, okay, including continuing to campaign against Sheriff Nanos. So while she was running, this is crazy. So while she was running for sheriff against him, he put her on administrative leave. Something's wrong in River City here, folks. On admit, he put the person that was running against him on administrative leave, but could not stop her from free speech. Got it. Likewise, although she was ordered not to discuss the ongoing investigation consistent with the department, she was free to engage in all other protected speech, including continuing to campaign against Sheriff Nanos. But she was under investigation. I mean, that honestly, that's crazy. He put her under investigation. I do not get it. I do not. At the conclusion of the department's investigation, former Lieutenant Lapin was given a letter of reprimand, the exact punishment the Discipline Review Board recommended. That discipline was upheld after review when county HR denied her grievance. I mean, that's just wild. Prayers and pills. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you very much. Hope your dad's doing well. Love him. I love that name, Prayers and Pills. Nanos is a hater. Okay, hold on. Likewise, the exact punishment. Okay. To be clear, the allegations made by former Lieutenant Lapin have been extensively litigated in both federal court and the court of public opinion, even though that one doesn't count. Former Lieutenant Lapin grieved her discipline, and that grievance was denied. Former Lieutenant Lapin, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, filed a lawsuit that has not resulted in any finding of wrongdoing by Sheriff Nanos or the Pima County Sheriff's Department. The DOJ conducted a review and determined there was no evidence to support an investigation. Moreover, these allegations were reported on by a local media exhaustively. I would have used the word extensively there, but he said exhaustively because it exhausted them. It exhausted his client, nobody else probably, in the run-up to the 2024 election, and were rejected by Pima County voters. The voters voted. Despite all this unrelenting scrutiny, there has never been a sustained finding critical of the department's discipline of former Lieutenant Lapin. That is no accident. In November 2024, the Board of Supervisors referred concerns about former Lieutenant Lapin's treatment by Sheriff Nanos to the United States Department of Justice. The DOJ looked into the matter and determined there was no federal predicate for a criminal investigation into the allegations. They just said that there's no federal predicate. They didn't say that there was anything like, I don't know. They probably just didn't want to deal with it. Any appearance of impropriety that resulted from former Lieutenant Lapin's placement on administrative leave is the unfortunate result of a 2024 change to county policy that he was running against. So Nanos was running against somebody that was put on administrative leave and won by 400 votes. Oh my God. That's intense. That is so funny. How bad do you have to suck? He puts her on administrative leave. Yeah, it was a straw. He loves straws. I don't know. It pisses me off. But like there was something, I don't know. I have no idea. I think my nephew left his trash can down, but I don't know. It drives me nuts. Okay. Any appearance of impropriety that resulted from former lieutenant, it's just unfortunate because that's the new policy. That's the new policy. That's the new policy. It's not surprising that the first election following this regrettable change in policy showcased the predictable ways in which active employees running for county office can adversely impact departmental operations. In order to strengthen current process, the sheriff plans to meet with county administrator Lesher to discuss amending county personnel policy 8-108 to once more allow candidates for county office to be placed on leave without pay until after the election. Yeah, after. Got it. Topic 3, coordination with federal immigration office officials. Sorry. Telling the board, I don't need to read that. Okay. Pima County Sheriff Department employees do not inquire about the immigration status of purported crime victims, witnesses. In addition, these policies, consistent with these policies, Pima County no longer allows ICE to assist agents to the Pima County Adult Detention Center, the jail. Don't care about that. Regarding communication with federal law enforcement agencies like ICE, I want to know about the FBI stuff. Management of department's budget. The board, let's see. The board board's question unfairly implies that Sheriff Nanos has failed to properly manage the department's budget. Not so. 3 of the last 5 fiscal years, the department has performed under budget. In the 2 years, department expenditures exceeded its budget. So basically the ICE thing is that they're not working with ICE, and I think that's to whoever. It's political. He's a Democrat. I don't care. That's up to them. Let's see. What's up, Donna? The repeated instances mentioned in your letter is an apparent reference to monthly reports given. Okay, so basically he screwed the pooch on. He mismanaged funds. Shocker. let's see. Yeah, well, she might have voted for him, but the problem is that it sounds like a lot of people voted for him under false representation, that they weren't getting exactly who he was or what he's done or things like that. That's the problem. So I'm sure a lot of people voted for him that didn't know anything about him beating the shit out of somebody with a flashlight back in 1982 or whenever it was. But that was over 40 years ago, so it doesn't really matter that he did it. Remember, that's what he's saying. And that it's not that big of a deal, you know? I mean, it kind of is, to be honest with you. But it's not sad because how would she know? Like I said, there was a lot of people that voted that didn't know about it. Good morning. Well, it is sad in the fact that he tricked people. I don't know. I don't know that she did or she didn't. Where's the other one? Okay, so this is the budget stuff. Okay, conclusion. Well, there's so much more here. What is this? Oh, look, this is his application. Oh my God. Is that a typewriter? There's no way that's handwritten. All right, let's read the in conclusion here. In conclusion, the sheriff appreciates this opportunity. I'm sure he does, to answer the board's questions and to document his tireless efforts to protect and serve the people of Pima County. Serving as sheriff is a great honor, and he looks forward to achieving even greater success for the department and public servants who fulfill its mission every day through their hard work and dedication. If the board requires further information or would like to follow up on topics discussed in this letter, please contact me and I will work with the sheriff to provide an appropriate response. It sounds like the worst thing that has ever happened to him in his career was Nancy Guthrie going missing and him not being able to solve the case. Because if this case would have been solved, then he would not be under the scrutiny that he was. But as I said yesterday on the interview room, and I fully believe this with all my heart, that he was using this case as a political stepping stone, and that he was certain that it was going to get resolved, and it did not get resolved, and it's gone on and on and on, and the missteps have came back to bite him in the ass. Jaws is snapping, and now he's got this immense public scrutiny, but none of this would be happening. I'm telling you, none of this would be happening this way if Nancy. So basically what you have is you have a sort of a sleepy town or sleepy county sheriff's department that has this, I think Prayers and Pills said it properly, a civil war, if you will. This internal fighting going on. You have opponents being placed on administrative leave that are running against you. And you have people that, by the way, both of the people that were suspended, I believe one was a union leader. Koss was the union leader. And Lapin was running for sheriff, and she only beat her by 400 votes, which is impressive under any circumstances. But he was using this, and that's why he stood up there the way that he did at the very beginning of this and was giving these terrible press conferences, and people were onto him. It seemed like right away. People were, at first I didn't really care. I didn't really think that his press conferences, I didn't think they were good. I didn't know why he was up there, and I didn't really care. And now looking back, you go, wow, what a dumbass for doing this. He likely wouldn't have been caught for falsifying his work history, but for the notoriety of the yes, that's exactly right. If it wasn't for the notoriety of this case. All right, let's see. Is this marital status? Divorce. Shocker. Date of birth 55, 28 years old. So this is, and you guys can look at this. I'll put the link here. I'll put the link in the chat if you guys want to go and look at this. That's the link. You can, goals and objective: to advance further in fields of law enforcement, utilizing my present knowledge and beating the shit out of somebody with a flashlight. He didn't say that. So there's a deposition here. Wonder if they have the deposition. Yes, basically two things happening here. The Nancy Guthrie investigation has exposed the crazy shit or stuff, excuse my language, that have been going on. NJ, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And Donna, thank you as well for your super stickers. Let's see. And then so that's the deposition. Give me a second here. Let's see. By the way, did any of you guys hear, this is sort of switching gears here, what prosecutors are now saying about the David or D4, whatever friggin' shit that he had? I don't even want to say it. Child pee on his phone, like a substantial amount of child pee on his phone. Oh my God. I mean, this guy is as bad as anybody. He's an accused murderer. I mean, we could watch a little bit of that. Let's see. D4. And the autopsy was revealed as well. Dude, this guy is nuts. I kind of wanted to do a show about it separately, but 40 terabytes of evidence. 40 terabytes of evidence. I'm sure Benny Blanco is not too pumped about. I've never even heard him talk. Has anybody ever heard him talk before?
This is the Benny Blanco interview with D4VD.
We're here with Hero Magazine. I'm Benny Blanco. We're taking it way back. For someone who's never heard about you anything, how did it all begin? Give me the beginning.
When was this? So this was a year ago. This was right around the time. This is right around the time that Celeste went missing. She's been, it was close to, she's been basically close to a year.
Singer David and his legal team were back in Los Angeles court today, along with a team of LA prosecutors, and are on the ground report.
I think Nancy, I think Nancy Grace talked about it. How old is he? He's 21.
Dina Dahl was inside. There are no cameras. She is our eyes and our ears. We're going to talk about what was discussed in court and what authorities said they allegedly found on David's devices. And I will tell you.
Josh, did you see the latest on Asa Alarup on the Gilgo Beach series? So much to unpack. Is that when he would keep his victims alive for a certain amount of time? I heard some of that.
Right now, shocking. Welcome to.
And he'd like get their confidence and then kill them. I mean, that guy's a freaking monster too.
Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Look, before we even go any further, I got to tell you about this Law and Crime legal alert, okay? Roblox. Advocates.com today. We probable cause that these alleged crimes were committed to have to show that there is sufficient the case. It's a legal barrier, lower standard, low bar, but you have to show that there is sufficient probable cause that he committed these crimes, and I'll talk about which ones he's charged with, to move this case to the next stage. Here's the thing. Wasn't a preliminary hearing today. No, it turns out, even though a preliminary hearing was on the court calendar, this was more of a status conference.
Let me see. Yeah, let me hold on. Let me see something really quick. I'm using an old phone because I dropped the other one in the toilet. So I have to get a new one. And I had to get it out with like a grabber, and then it's forever unclean. So I can't use it anymore. I'm not going to use it anymore. It's just done. It's donezo. I'm having a rough week. That's true. Clean or dirty toilet. It was in the process of being used. Like, somebody may have been standing up and pulled out his phone, or somebody may have been using my phone when it happened. Okay.
It's a check-in regarding next steps in the case. Now, if you thought...
Hold on. There was something... Let me read this. Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann maintained a 4-day killing ritual, building trust with his victims before ending their lives in a basement kill room and dumping their remains near Gilgo Beach. A therapist reveals in a grisly new documentary episode. By the time Heuermann killed what he says was his 8th and final victim, which I think is bullcrap, the practice became so routine, his stopwatch informed him that it took 37 seconds to dispose of the remains of Amberlynn Costello along Ocean View Parkway in 2010. Sayville therapist disclosed. 4-day killing ritual. Sick.
That this was going to be a 2-minute hearing and that was it. Not the case. No. We are going to get into specifically what authorities claim they found on David's devices. I wonder if this is a whole new game here. I wonder if now we're talking potential federal charges.
Yeah, the feds could get in. The feds could absolutely get in on this. If all else fails, if by some miracle they don't have a solid case against him for this murder, then the feds could get in and take, hit him with something as well, which they might do it anyway. So this guy's not going anywhere.
If those allegations are true, I'll get to that. But before we even get into what happened today, I just got to give you some context about this, okay? So we have talked about this before. Remember, when I'm mentioning a preliminary hearing, which I understand has now been scheduled for a later date, this goes back to the idea of the grand jury. We know that there were reports that a grand jury was impaneled to hear evidence in the case of this 21-year-old singer, but there was no grand jury indictment, right? There was no formal charges. No, instead, at the beginning of this week, the Los Angeles County District Attorney, Nathan Hochman, his office filed first-degree murder, continuous sexual abuse of a child.
I don't think that you can get the death penalty for child P, but it carries a substantial. They should add the charges. The Fed should get involved.
Under 14 and unlawful mutilation of human remains charges against David in connection with the death of Celeste. Remember, her decomposed and dismembered body was reportedly found September 8th, 2025 in the trunk of a car, allegedly.
But for what he's accused of here, yes, he can get the death penalty. The accusation that he killed and dismembered, this is a capital murder case.
Registered to David, real name David.
Stack those charges up.
Anthony Burke. And he's also facing special circumstances allegations, right? Lying in wait, killing for financial gain, killing of a witness.
No, it's not Coolio Fulio, it's Julio Fulio.
Using a sharp instrument, all with respect to the murder charge. And this is significant because this can carry heavier penalties if he's convicted of the murder charge. We're talking life in prison without the possibility of parole. We're talking the death penalty, even though there is a moratorium on executions in California. But this is why,
for now, there's a governor's race coming up.
It's so significant, why the prosecution believes they have evidence to prove that. And the main idea here is essentially that David allegedly killed Celeste because she was going to expose him potentially about their illegal underage sexual relationship. I think that's the fair argument.
I still think that there was because she was reported missing by her parents. I think that he was under investigation for having a sexual relationship with this young lady, and he knew that, and that's why he killed her. I truly believe that
this was going to affect his career, which was on the rise. Remember, he was on tour when all of this happened. Now, as we learned yesterday, when the autopsy report was released, that Celeste's official cause of death was multiple penetrating injuries, and her manner of death was listed as homicide. We did a whole sidebar yesterday with forensics examiner Dr. Mary Jimbelik. It's up on YouTube right now, up on our Long Crime YouTube. You can watch the whole thing. Oh, and by the way, the full autopsy report, if you want to go through the details, if you want to see it for yourself, it's up on our app, Long Crime.
Do you guys want to go through the autopsy?
Plus as
Well,
well.
we can do that after this if you want.
If you want to check it out. I actually think it's significant that we're putting these case files on the app because, look, unfortunately, in today's day and age, there's a lot of misinformation. There are a lot of AI tools someone can use to make fake reports or fake information. This is the official released autopsy report. It's up on Law and Crime Plus, so you can check it out there. But bottom line, David was charged by the DA's office, but in order for this to move forward, in order for this to go to a trial, there has to be a legal determination that there is sufficient probable cause that David committed these crimes to move forward with this case. Again, lower standard, and if it's not by a grand jury, then it needs to be by a judge at a preliminary hearing. And by the way, preliminary hearing is a little bit different than a grand jury because grand jury proceedings are secret. The defense doesn't have an opportunity to challenge that evidence. Preliminary hearing in court, in front of a judge, defense there. They get an opportunity to fight back against this. But anyway, brings us to today. This courthouse in downtown LA. By the way, just talking about a preliminary hearing for a second, David's attorneys, his defense attorneys, pushed for a preliminary hearing immediately. They have said that he didn't commit this murder. They have said that he was not the cause of her death. But what happened today? Now, look, there were no cameras in the courtroom. The good news, we have our own eyes and ears, okay? We have our own eyes and ears. Attorney and legal analyst Dina Dahl was in that courtroom. So good to see you, Dina. Thanks for taking the time. First of all, I need you to clarify what this hearing was, because I think a lot of us thought this was going to be the preliminary hearing. We thought that.
Dude, Jesse Weber's Widow Peak reminds me of like a map of Middle Earth on Lord of the Rings.
Was on the calendar. That was not the case, even though they did talk about when the preliminary hearing is going to be scheduled, right?
Absolutely. It was calendared as a preliminary hearing, but the judge at the outset said, I'm sure that's not actually going to start today. Let's talk about it. And that's exactly what they did, scheduling it. And most importantly, talking about the discovery, the transferring of what seems to be a mountain of evidence from the prosecution to the defense and the logistics of how that's going to happen.
And I want to get into that because quite the headline, what was allegedly found on either David's phone or his devices, which we'll get to. But the preliminary hearing is scheduled for next week, right? And is this because there's just, like you said, there's so much evidence to go through, there's so much data to go through?
Well, this is significant. They have not waived their right to a speedy preliminary hearing. The very last day it could be under law was May 4th. But the judge said, I don't like to schedule it that last day because there could be unexpected circumstances just with the court system in general. So they have scheduled it for May 1st, but significantly, they will all be back in front of the judge the afternoon of April 29th in order for the defense to determine whether or not the prosecution has handed over enough evidence where they think they can.
There is no way with 40 terabytes of evidence that they're going to be able to get this thing underway anytime soon. I just can't imagine 40 terabytes of evidence is wild.
Properly defend their client at the hearing. The judge making a point that although statutory law requires the prosecution to hand over everything prior to trial, they are not required to do that for a preliminary hearing. They just have to hand over sufficient evidence that is most favorable to the defendant in order to prove probable cause. So that afternoon of April 29th, the defense will determine if they think they have enough evidence to continue with this speedy preliminary hearing.
His music sucks.
Dina, let me ask you this. The autopsy report that came out yesterday, is that a reason why we didn't have a preliminary hearing today? Did they talk about that? Because there's a lot in that report. That's the official cause of death. We know the defense has said that David is not the cause of death. Did that come up today?
That did not come up. As they really spoke about the fact that they have a wide range of evidence that the defense has not getting.
I doubt Dr. Gary will talk about this till it's adjudicated. I mean, He stays away from that kind of stuff most of the time.
Specifically, they actually highlighted the fact that they have this significant amount of child pornography on his iPhone, but they did not get into the specifics of the medical examiner's report.
Okay, so talk to me about the big bombshell. Apparently, they found what, or allegedly found what, on David's devices?
So she said the words, the prosecution said, a significant amount of child pornography. And she raised this saying it is going to be different. You cannot hand over that type of evidence to the defense as you would the rest of the evidence. The defense has to instead have somebody, a counsel or an expert, go to the county and actually look at a determined computer to look at this because of the sensitive nature of that evidence. The prosecution also highlighting the amount of this evidence and the evidence on the data and the cell phone in general because of the difficulty and how long it takes to hand and transfer over this kind of amount of evidence.
Okay, put your legal cap on. Are we talking potential federal charges? You and I both know that if someone is caught with allegedly child sexual abuse material on their devices, that could be federal charges.
That's a really great point. And it's very possible federal charges may come. At this point, though, it definitely is relevant and probative to one of the three charges. There are three charges against him: murder, continuous child sex abuse, and mutilation of a corpse. So this specific child pornography evidence is definitely going to be used by prosecution for that continuous child sexual abuse. But whether or not the federal prosecutors decide to add charges, we will wait and see.
Just want to clarify, any idea who was portrayed in these, this footage, these videos, this data on his phone? Is it Celeste? Is it someone else? Did prosecutors acknowledge that? And let me be clear, allegedly on his phone. Did they say the identity of this person or persons?
They did not say the identity, but even that specific phrase, the press, there was a ton of press in the courtroom. Everybody had their laptops out taking notes, and you just heard the chatter of the typing, just the phrase significant.
So there's going to be so much evidence against this guy. This guy's such a dummy that he's going to go to court and I don't think he has any bargaining chips anyway, other than take the death penalty off the table. But I don't think he's going to be scared of the death penalty because he probably won't end up with the death penalty because, like I said, there's a freeze on the death penalty. And even Scott Peterson got his death penalty overturned to life in prison. Couldn't happen to a better guy. Got his ass beat playing pickleball. Even better. Rack 'em.
Amount of child pornography was enough to raise flags about what may become in this trial.
What about, I read there was something about a wiretap and search warrants?
Exactly. They said that there was a significant amount of evidence collected in a wiretap. There was also 3 different investigative grand juries, one convened in November, one in December, and one in February. The prosecution really trying to convey to the judge how much evidence they have and the difficulty of it to be able to be transferred to the defense that quickly. They did say, however, that they plan on handing the defense tomorrow arrest records, photographic evidence, chemical evidence reports, and DNA evidence reports.
Wait a second. Let's just take a step back here. We were debating whether or not there was a grand jury that was going to be investigating this case, right? Locking in witness testimony, gathering evidence, that they didn't have the power.
If you think if he's found guilty that he deserves the death penalty, hit 1. If you don't think he deserves the death penalty, put a 2 in the chat.
Power to indict, that was one thing. Now we're learning there were multiple grand juries that were all in this investigative function. Not one of them had the power to indict.
That's what came out today. The prosecution said specifically investigative grand juries without the power to indict. And they said it was up to the defense to request that these records be unsealed.
And the latest grand jury was what, February?
Justin, let me just add, and I completely respect your opinion. Can you just tell me why you don't think he deserves? Are you anti-death penalty?
February?
That's what they said. February was the latest one.
What was the vibe in that courtroom? Let's start here. What did David look like?
So when David came in, he was in his orange jumpsuit. He sat down. His attorney, Blair Book, immediately put her hand on his shoulder. Every time she conferred with her client,
Yeah, but don't attack Justin just for his. He's allowed to have his opinion.
fact put her hand on his shoulder. He vigorously nodded even every time the judge referred to him. If he asked her a question, he
Right, never mind. I disagree.
answered in the affirmative. At the very end, when she was explaining the process of how he's going to be brought back to the hearing and how he may have to wait but make sure he's on time, he folded his hands in a prayer position. But otherwise, he was.
What does him being homeschooled and sheltered growing up have to do with killing a young lady and having sex with her underage? That I don't understand that. If that's the reason, then I don't understand that.
Just quietly listening to the proceedings and listening to his lawyers speak on his behalf.
And what about for the prosecution? Who was there?
The prosecution, they had their attorneys. Interestingly, there were two young girls sitting next to the investigators. They were not.
I agree, but that doesn't give them carte blanche to do terrible things.
Referenced, they were not conferred with. We know that the Hernandez family said in advance they did not plan on attending the hearing, so it's unclear who those girls were.
I just want to be clear about something. There have been rumors, there has been speculation that David has allegedly hasn't been charged, but allegedly maybe been involved with other minors. Is there anything to indicate that those, and I want to make sure your terminology is correct, you're saying they were children, they're not women?
Some people are fundamentally against the death penalty, and you know that's fine. I understand. I understand that. So I get it.
Appear to be children were there. Is that somehow connected to other people that might allegedly be in David's orbit?
You do wonder. They looked, I mean, of course, I did not have their identification, but they looked young. I would say in that range of what Celeste was, 13, 14, 15. Definitely they looked less than 18.
Yeah, I know. And everybody's saying, that California does not use it. But what I'm telling you is that by the time this goes to trial, there will be a new governor, and it could be a Republican governor or Democrat governor who does probably, if it's a Democratic governor, they probably won't be for the death penalty. But if it's a Republican one, they probably will be for the death penalty. And they can cancel that moratorium anytime. And, then they could be taking dudes out. There are guys on death row. They're just sitting there.
And so was there anybody?
Whack them. Yeah, I hear that argument too, Justin. I really do. I understand.
There for Celeste's side, as far as you can tell?
I could not tell if there was, and there was an announcement by the family that they were not planning on coming today.
What about anybody there in support of David?
It's always unclear because this was a hearing that so many people went to attend. Every single seat was taken. There were people behind the defense table that did not look like press. They did not have the press credentials. They didn't have their laptop and typing. But whether or not they were members of the public or supporters of David is unclear.
Mm-hmm. And you're saying it was packed. There was a lot of media. Is this one of those cases where you think it's getting a lot of attention just from people online, streamers? Like, I understand there was even a long line to get in to court today.
Absolutely. This, here we're in Los Angeles. It's no stranger to high profile cases, and the press showed up. There was a line to get in. Literally every single seat in that courtroom was taken.
Like I said, I didn't even know who this guy was until this happened. I mean, it's a generation below me. Thank God. For once, I'm happy about being 40. Not that I'm like depressed about it, but this music sucks.
The press cameras were lined up outside waiting for a press conference that never happened. The prosecution decided not to speak. The defense
popular from Fortnite. That's how it started. Then he somehow parlayed that into a shitty music career with auto-tunes and a morbid sense of like, I don't know, like he's like a fake goth, morbid. Oh, I could die in your arms tonight. Types, he sucks. Fucking loser. He really is. How does he have so much? He had a deal through Fortnite. He was an ambassador for Crocs, and he had a world tour, and he had a successful YouTube channel and social media presence. Yeah, it's terrible music. He's a psycho. I give an F. Which is cool. I'm with you on that. Justin's just giving his opinion. Doesn't really care either way. He thinks rotting in prison is worse. I think that the stress of sitting on death row is not worse. I think the stress of sitting on death row, thinking about that, like that you have a date that you're going to be executed every single day, is sort of, I kind of take some comfort in that, unfortunately.
not to speak.
By the way, when I was walking today, I got lost in like the longest alley of all time.
But this is going to be heavily watched. There was actually at the very end of the hearing a representative from the news organization asking the judge to reconsider her denial of allowing cameras in the courtroom, reiterating that the judges here seem to have kind of learned the lesson after the OJ case to not allow cameras, and that after so many years, perhaps the OJ case, afraid of letting in cameras, needs to go away, and saying how the public pays for this building and should allow cameras in, but the judge denied it. There will not be cameras allowed in this next hearing or if a trial moves forward.
Wow, no cameras in the preliminary hearing. Look,
I hate that, man.
I personally think that's a mistake, particularly in a case like this, since there's so much speculation.
Not in one of those southern states, not in Oklahoma, not in Louisiana, not in Missouri, not in Texas. I mean, Texas, you think it's like 10 to 13 years. And then they do you in. Arkansas, same way. So some of those southern states have that right.
So much rumors. This is a front row to seeing what the evidence is, what evidence the prosecution believes they have. Do they have sufficient probable cause to support these charges? I think that this is one of those cases where the public has a right to view and should view what the evidence is. Which, by the way, let me go back to you, Dean, on this. This is both a legal question for you and a reporter question. I have been curious after I heard Nathan Hochman the other day. What is the evidence they have to prove lying in wait, that he allegedly killed Celeste because she was a witness to a case or an investigation, that he allegedly killed her for financial gain? The basic idea here is she was going to
10 to 13 years does seem excessive, but if you're not familiar with the way the courts work, it's fast. Like it's fast. Fast. Like extremely fast. These places are like the justice system takes so long. Like this guy, Athena Strain, like, what has it been, like 3-4 years to even get him to where he's at right now?
Allegedly expose him for this illegal sexual relationship, right? Did you get any sense today about what that evidence will be?
No, and I'm glad you brought up that point, because to me, that is, in a way, a very strange motive. Because here the prosecution is alleging that he killed her in order to cover up the crime of his child sex abuse. But yet he kept the body in his car for months. So he did a very bad job of then disposing of the evidence, you would say. The prosecution needs to explain something like that. But what we did here today is, in this digital age, there is a mountain of digital evidence. Obviously, with 3 grand juries, they have quite a bit of witness testimony. They have the wiretap evidence, which we didn't know about that. And it appears they have DNA, chemical, sure, video surveillance. But that theory of the case strikes me as very strange as an attorney. And perhaps the prosecution has an explanation. I mean, the prosecution said today that, quote, we're ready to go to trial. They would be happy for the defense to waive their right to a speedy trial. But they do have to explain that contradiction in the motive and the lack of disposing of the evidence.
Let me follow up on something.
It's just how it works, man. The courts are clogged in every state. It's stupid.
I don't know for sure that her dismembered, decomposed body was in the car from April to September, right? Did you learn something different?
No,
Very
we
late.
do not. It's more of that. You and I talk about a lot of true crime cases. You would, if the idea is that somebody is trying to cover up another crime and goes to such lengths as to commit murder, you would think they would do a better job of disposing of the evidence. And
well, I mean, we're not talking about a Mensa candidate here. I mean, he plays Fortnite and he dresses. I don't know. I don't know how he dresses.
the murder crime.
Let me ask you this. Anything about
I was going to say he kind of dresses like a girl, but I'm sure somebody would have got mad at me for it. How do girls dress, Josh? I don't know. Like him. My light went out.
potential cooperating witnesses? Did any specific names come up?
I mean, he does. He dresses like a girl. What? I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. Plays Fortnite and dresses like a girl. Sure. My light went out.
Talk about the connective tissue. There have always been a lot of players that have come up in this case, allegations about who might have testified in front of a grand jury or a hearing. Did you hear any name, any potential cooperating witness?
We heard no names whatsoever. And in fact, the prosecution did not give a glimmer as to what happened in that grand jury, saying this is secret. It could only be unsealed by a motion from the defense.
Okay, interesting for a status conference here. I'm very curious to see what happens with the preliminary hearing. Before I let you go, any idea of where the defense is going when they say he's not the cause of death? Do they have an idea?
So nobody gets offended. He dresses like he's going to a Cardi B concert. How's that? Is that better?
That they're going to be introducing their own forensic expert, or they're going to be casting doubt on that. Perhaps she didn't die from multiple penetrating injuries, that it was caused by something else, or is this too early?
It was too early. They really were focusing on basically telling the judge they didn't have enough evidence, that their defendant, because he was waiving his right to a speedy preliminary trial, had a right to receive some evidence, and they really hadn't received enough from the prosecution. That was really what they were asking for the judge. The judge being sympathetic, the prosecution saying they planning on cooperate. They're going to meet at the end of April 29th, determine if they have enough. If the preliminary hearing goes forward, prosecution says they expect it to last about 4 to 5 days.
Okay, interesting. All right. We shall see. Dina Dahl, thank you for coming in. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for covering for us.
Thanks for having me.
And that's all we have.
I don't like Cardi B. I don't like her, man. I don't like Cardi B.
Have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also check us out on NBC's Peacock as well if you want to follow.
What's this?
Steve, back to you. Other information, because
Never mind. Are we doing Nancy tonight?
Music.
We're doing the Nancy Guthrie or Nancy Grace. You have the same cardigan? Okay, well, so they're going to talk about in this. They're going to talk about the autopsy. They're going to talk about the autopsy report. So if you don't want to hear it, I understand. But they have Joe Scott Moe on here.
Girl, Celeste Rivas, just 13.
Why did she say it like that?
A little girl, Celeste Rivas, just.
She's like, she already started. She's already pissing me off. Celeste Rivas.
13 years old.
You could just say Celeste Rivas.
Tonight, autopsy bombshell. We learn this little girl partially skeletonized. Her left eye.
I don't think Dave. I don't think they have Dave Mack on this one. Let's check. No, not that I see.
Gone. Traces of not only meth, but MDMA in her system.
I do too.
What was done to this little girl before she was killed with a, quote, sharp object? This, as David Anthony Burke, a.k.a. D4V.
I got to tell you, though, when it comes to Nancy Grace, these are the cases where she shines. She is, I got to tell you.
The famous musician whines behind bars.
Totally.
Really? Yes, really. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. He is charged with murder.
That witness may be looking at, hey, I'm facing these charges if I don't turn state's evidence and tell them what I know.
That's a possible that somebody came forward and they've identified where she was actually murdered.
Straight out to Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter Dave Mack.
We're starting off with Rusty. D-Mac's in the house. Shout out D-Mac.
What happened in court?
Nancy, prosecutors provided new information.
Nancy, what's going on over here? I had some Mexican food today, and so I totally feel you on the Rivas, your pronunciation there, and it's a good one. Thank you. ¿Cómo estás? Bien y tú?
Information about shocking illegal images found on accused killer David Anthony Burke's cell phone. Los Angeles County Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman claims the illegal images involving children were uncovered as part of a broad series of search warrants executed on Burke's phone and iCloud. Silverman did not say if any of the images were of Celeste Rivas. Burke's attorneys have insisted
they're not even showing him anymore. He's become translucent. He's like powder.
He's innocent and are demanding a preliminary hearing begin next week, meaning we might get a look at even more evidence as early as May 1st. Other than the CP found on Burke's phone, prosecutors also revealed a wiretap was used in the investigation. No real specifics about the wiretap other than to say it took place last year. Burke was shackled as he came into court wearing county-issued orange jail jumpsuit. The 21-year-old defendant appeared calm and at times tried to look bored, only speaking briefly to the judge, saying,
He looks like when you leave mayo out in the sun.
"Yes, ma'am," as she made sure he understood what was taking place. Coming up, a status hearing scheduled for April 29th and a May 1st court date.
Straight out to special guest joining us, Caitlin Becker, senior national correspondent, New
Well, Linda, she may be all those things, but she has really good guests.
York Post, host of podcast NY Postcast. Caitlin, bombshell autopsy report. And I'm wondering, now that I've seen the autopsy report, why the LAPD insists.
I don't think Seth wants to run for sheriff, but I think sheriff deputy. Maybe he'll run for sheriff. But it sounds like Pima County is going to need a new one. I'm a cupcake too.
It stay under seal for so long, maybe because it's so incendiary. Remember at the get-go, Caitlin, a lot of news outlets were saying they can't determine COD. We have sources inside the medical examiner's office. They can't tell COD because she's decomposed, 1, and 2, dismembered. BS, technical legal term. They've had the COD for months.
Rusty, is Caitlin a certified baddie?
Now, and that is death by a sharp object. So, what can you tell us? Do we know why the LAPD wanted it kept secret for so long?
We don't know why they wanted to keep it secret for so long. This was determined back in December at the end of 2025. And we did have sources at the Post that we spoke to who told us the same thing that you had heard from other sources as well. They couldn't determine the cause of death. They couldn't say it was a homicide because they couldn't figure out how she died. But this, as you said, explosive bombshell autopsy was so disturbing and gruesome and brutal, but clearly laid out at least 2 areas where she was very clearly stabbed with something, even to the point where they were noting the.
Yeah, I know his channel, but he's on here.
The angle with which the knife went in, it was between 3 and 9 o'clock. And if you think about going down like this, that's exactly how you would hold a knife. So the fact that this was sitting there for all of these months is baffling.
God, why did she do that?
Caitlin, you've read this autopsy report. Very rarely have I felt nauseous reading an autopsy report. I don't even feel nauseous when I go to an autopsy. When I read this, I felt nauseous. I got hot all over because I think of Celeste as that little girl, 13 years old, and bombshell tonight. We are learning that D4VD, aka David Anthony Burke, met Celeste allegedly when she was 12. He's a grown
Possibly
man.
as early as 11.
What is he doing with a 12-year-old girl?
I heard it was 11. Not that that's, I don't know. It's too much, man. It's sick.
Caitlin Becker.
Nothing good and nothing legal, Nancy. So the New York Post compiled a bunch of Discord, Reddit, chat room clips and screenshots going back to 2023 and then back to potentially 2021, where she was maybe 11, 12 at the oldest, where they were apparently together. These disturbing messages with people on Reddit and Discord saying that he had a girlfriend. Her name was Celeste. It was something with.
I'm 40 years old and I would not date a 20-year-old. I wouldn't even date a 25-year-old. I think 8 years is like the max at my age. But And I see people that are in their 50s dating 20-year-olds. It's crazy. I could never.
To see she was in middle school. So this seemed to be no surprise to some of the fans who were operating in some of these chat rooms and circles. One of them looked like it was even a conversation between the two of them in a chat room, where it's October 2023, where someone that appears to be David says is Celeste here, and a screen name.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
That appears to be Celeste says David Bark or Burke, but she wrote BARKKKKK to just be kind of cutesy as a 12-year-old would be online. But even going back further, Nancy, her missing persons flyer indicated that she was in Hello Kitty sandals, which just that image in and of itself is troubling. It gives you an idea of just how young she is. But there was a post that David had posted of a photo that included some Hello Kitty Crocs that you could see it.
What 11 years old is not even middle school. I think it's like 5th grade.
The bottom, and then a caption where he made some disturbing reference to the Hello Kitty girl that got him in 2021. So now we're talking about grade school aged. It is so troubling and grotesque in so many ways to know that information that we uncovered, and then you put it with the way she was.
So think about this. So an 18-year-old, 18. So think about it this way. A senior in high school, okay, dating somebody in 5th grade. If you're a freshman in high school and you're dating somebody in 5th grade, that's disgusting. If you're in 8th grade and you're dating a 5th grader, that's disgusting. But to put it into perspective, that's either a senior or you could be out of school by 18. Dating a 5th grader.
Found by investigators, it really does make you sick to your stomach.
Put up Dubé. Philip Dubé joining us, veteran criminal defense attorney, joining us out of this jurisdiction, LA. The Hello Kitty girl, 12 years old, when D4VD puts the moves on her, she's missing an eyeball and she's skeletonized. Thoughts? Why shouldn't this be a death penalty case?
This is not a capital case. It might be on paper, but this young man has absolutely no criminal record. I do not see a jury ever executing him. I think best case scenario is that this could result in a plea bargain. But even then, I think it's highly doubtful because his max is life without parole. What on earth would be the incentive for him to take a deal that would involve life behind bars anyway? So I actually think that this may be overfiled.
Put him up. Philip Dubé, I like you.
I don't.
But I got to ask you a question. When you do all that manscaping right there, do you ever actually look at yourself in the mirror? How can you say that? The girl was 12. Celeste Rivas was 12 when D4VD, the big musician, puts moves on her. And now she's dead in his trunk. Her body in pieces. Her left eyeball is gone. Wonder what happened to that. Joe Scott Morgan is going to tell you that when you decompose, your eyeball doesn't just disappear. Where is her eyeball? Why did she have MDMA in her system? Meth in her system? Why? Why is this not a death penalty case? If this is not a death penalty case, what is?
There has to be some evidence, that he's the one who actually did it. Merely having a corpse is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt that he is in fact the actual killer. At most, what you have is him having constructive possession of her because her remains were found in the car. Now, having said that, the jury is going to have to find, assuming it even goes to a penalty phase, that he's irreformable, irredeemable, and that the only just outcome for him would be California's lethal injection. I predict that no jury will ever execute this young man.
Probably right.
If you have been there a multiple times, joining us, good luck. Straight out to Joseph Scott Morgan.
All right. Is Joe Scott Morgan a baddie? I'm not asking you, Rusty.
In joining us, I need you and I need you now. Professor of Forensics, Jacksonville State University, which has an incredible new facility and program for criminal procedure. We've done a lot of recreations together. He is the author of a bestseller, Blood Beneath My Feet, on Amazon, and he is the star of a hit podcast, Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan. But all that aside, he is a death investigator with over 10,000 death investigations under his belt. Now, how is a death investigator different from a medical examiner? He goes out to the scene and he sees all the scenes as they are when police.
I'd like to get him on the show.
Find the body. He looks at accidents. He looks at natural causes. He looks at suicide. He looks at undetermined and, of course, homicide. And he knows the difference. Usually one glance and he can tell you. Could you walk us through and try to skip the medical examiner vernacular? Like you're talking to a jury, please, so we can all understand. See, I understand what it means when I read in the autopsy, her left eyeball is gone.
Yeah, I probably could get him on the show. I think I think it would be good. We'll be in Vegas. Joe,
how did that happen? That did not happen naturally. I know what it means that MDMA is in her system. Methamphetamine is in this little girl's system. I know what it means that her head is in an actual body bag with handles on it. That's not a trash bag. And that under the body bag, which they had to go get, or is it one of his props for one of his creepy songs about death? Oh my goodness. That means it's going to be covered with his fingerprints, right? That said, underneath the body bag, an actual body bag, is a trash bag with her dismembered body in it. You've got her head in one bag and the rest of her body cut in pieces in another bag. No wonder the LAPD wanted to keep a lid on it. It's incendiary, it's inflammatory, it's upsetting, and it may have altered the course of this investigation because it is so upsetting.
It is very upsetting. And Nancy, I got to say something real quick. In all of my years, I never thought that I would read an autopsy report where I'm hearing or reading the fact that a body bag is being swabbed for DNA. Nancy, did you know they swabbed to each one of those handles? A body bag, this particular body bag has 6 handles. Each one of those handles was swabbed. The zipper has been swabbed. So you've got a body bag, and this body bag description is just like the ones that we use at the coroner's office, the medical examiner's office. I don't know about you. I've been at this for a long time. I don't have any body bags at my house. So again, he had to acquire this somehow. And, you can draw from that what you want, but let's get to Celeste, this child. First off, you'd mentioned the skull. The skull is partially skeletonized at this point. Now, in decomposition, and she's been.
I gotta say that. I just gotta say this, and then we'll get back to Joe Scott. But this guy preyed on a little girl who, for whatever reason, seemed to be unhappy at home. He used his fame. He used his money. He used his status to lure her into a relationship when a 5th grader can't be in a relationship. And it is inconceivable to me that you could do this to a child after everything that you've already put her through.
Been down for a very long time. We will see the eyes collapse within the sockets. That does happen. However, there is considerable insect activity, and I know that this is really horrible, but people need to understand the depth of depravity here. There's insect activity. So you have insects that have been, let's just say, feasting on the remains, okay? All of this time. And this has been contained in this frunk, in the frunk of this car. And I don't know where else it may have been contained at some point in time, maybe within that house. Insects are going to play a big part in this case. But Nancy, here's really kind of the dark thing, if it can get any darker. What they're identifying as fatal injuries on her. We've got the one that is on the left side in her rib cage, and it's actually the intercostal space. And what that means is there's a muscle that runs in between the ribs, okay? That doesn't really go anywhere. She could have bled out from that. It's hard to tell. There is hemorrhage in there. It doesn't affect the lung. But what I want to focus on is the one on the right. If folks at home will essentially go down your chest till you find the base of your rib cage on the right side. This is right at the top of your abdomen. And when the rib cage comes to an end, bingo, you're on your liver. Nancy, a knife, a sharp instrument was inserted to a depth of about 1.5 inches, according to the autopsy report. It goes into that liver. The liver is the most, other than the brain, is the most vascular organ in the body. And here's the dark part. Nancy, this was not a quick death. She bled out. This is not, we're not talking about somebody that was shot in the head. We're not talking about somebody that, you know, had died in a road accident or something like that. No, she stabbed in the liver. She would have bled out into her abdomen. I've handled multiple cases involving the liver. If you don't have a team of surgeons standing there, there's nothing you can do for them. And she would have had an awareness, Nancy. She would have had an awareness that her life was merely just kind of seeping away with every drop of blood that coursed out of that. Now, a question is, where is the blood? Is there blood in the house? Is there blood in the car? Hard to tell because we don't know what they were able to go back to the scene to capture. But I know that in the immediate, if you could have examined her body like within a couple of days, you would have seen an abdomen that was filled with blood. And I really want people to understand that here. She had blood coursing into her abdomen. It would have been in her bowels, over the top of her bowels, and her eyes would have slowly closed. And there would have been nobody there to comfort her or love her in any way. She was brutally murdered, and then her corpse was brutally abused. You're damn right this is inflammatory, and there's going to be more that's going to come out, and it doesn't bode well for whoever is involved in this.
Can I?
That's what, like, this can't be the only person that gets charged in this case. It can't just be him. He had people around him. I'm telling you, there are other people that knew about this and did not report this, and they should be held responsible after the fact as well. There's no way he did this all by himself and nobody else knew about it. People like this have people that hang around them and do bidding for them, and other people at least knew, if not helped.
Talk to you about, so many things, Joe Scott. But first, when there's an eyeball missing, I know the eyeballs do collapse upon death, after time passes. But there should have been some residue still in the eye socket to show the eyeball was there, had been there. Her whole eyeball is gone. It's gone. Did that happen during the dismemberment? Was she hit so hard at some point the eyeball was dislodged? There should be some, at least, residue within the eye socket to show she ever had an eyeball. It is gone, Joe Scott.
Let's take this in from two perspectives, okay? If it was something that was done in the pre-death stage, they would have.
I'm sure that's what's happening, which I hate, but whatever.
Seen some kind of evidence of hemorrhage indwelling in there. Now, as to whether or not it was removed in a postmortem, who knows at this point in time, because you would have, and actually on the socket itself, I've had cases like this where you would see tool marks because of sharp instrument in the eye socket right here. Okay. If somebody's trying to remove an eye externally, you would see tool marks on this area. My suspicion is, and again, this is very graphic stuff, you're talking about maggot activity at this point in time, and maggots will feast in this area and they'll clean the area out. And I've seen this happen over and over.
I still think there would have been residue. I think.
What do you mean, Nancy? You're not the one, like, you're not a medical examiner. You don't know shit about this. You still think there would have been residue?
That she struggled when she was first stabbed. She was stabbed multiple times, and that one of the stabs went in her eye.
Well, we'll see if they can actually tie that back. Can I make one more point, and I'll shut my mouth?
Please, because I want to get to the fact she's got 2 missing fingers. 2 fingers are gone,
right?
Just like the eyeball. You want to tell me maggots marched off with those 2?
It's not soft tissue like that.
No. I'm not going to tell you that. What I will tell you, though, is that this injury that she has on the left side, it doesn't communicate with the lung.
That look, this is graphic stuff. So if you have to step away, I get it. I understand. It's bad.
But we don't have a weapon at this point in time.
Thank you, Justin RN. Appreciate that. Thank you for becoming a member.
Guess what?
Exactly.
If they did what I think they may have done, what they're talking about in this autopsy report, they talk about the cortical surface of the rib. That means the outer surface of the rib. That knife or that instrument made contact with that rib. Guess what they can do with this? And it. They are going to remove that rib. They'll clean it up. And they're going to turn that rib over to tool mark section, and they will examine it. They can look at it with the unaided eye. They can look at it microscopically, and we can get a sense, perhaps, of what type of instrument was involved. If it goes into the liver, though it's a solid organ, you can't do tool mark on that. However, that rib, that insult right there, is going to be key here, and they're going to hang on to that. Additionally, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but with the dismemberment, okay, they're going to take sections of bone from that as well, like the ends of the bone. If you're talking about the femur or the humerus in the arm, the femur in the leg, they'll take the section.
I hate the she's such an adorable child, really, honestly. And a sick bastard.
Out of there where this instrument passed through. I don't think it's the same section. They're talking about that this instrument, whatever it is, passed through both the soft tissue and through the bone. Yeah.
That is a ferocious stab to pass through the soft tissue, which is your skin, fat, muscle, and through the bone, which gives me a very good idea as to how she lost her eye and 2 fingers, because, Joe Scott, it says in the autopsy report there are defensive wounds. So if she's doing that and a stab is happening, it could easily go through her left eye. You'd find markings here and here, maybe on her legs if she's in a fetal position. That's what defensive wounds mean.
Yep. So the trick is, are they going to be able to prove that? And this is one of the problems that you run into, Nancy. Let me throw this out at you, okay? If you read that,
no, she's got to get away from the eye. I mean, the guy gave a pretty good explanation.
That report, they actually used the
He's
term
assessing.
liquefied. And so that's what you're dealing with these remains. Okay, so we've lost a lot at this point because the cellular degradation that has taken place, it has literally liquefied in the bottom of this body bag.
Sick. If what Rusty said is correct, what would happen if they found incriminating evidence on all 40 terabytes that the others were involved in abuse, not just her murder? Would they be immune from that? It honestly, it just depends. I don't think that they would give immunity if she was. I don't think they would give immunity to child abusers if they had the evidence to prove it. Now they give immunity to people that have knowledge after the fact. So I think if they were involved in the abuse and could prove it, there would be no reason for them to cut a deal, I guess. But 40 terabytes, like how many people are going to need to testify in this case? I wouldn't think very many, would they?
So they're really fighting an uphill scientific battle here to try to understand what actually happened. More to come.
Well, I know this. I know she had defensive wounds. I know that the stab wounds to this little girl were so vicious, it went through the soft tissue to the bone. I know that the defensive wounds most likely mean she's doing this, which could indicate how she got 2 fingers sliced off of her hand. I know her left eye is gone and that her head is partially skeletonized. And I know that when you pick something up, like a body bag with 6 handles, this is where you look for DNA. You look everywhere, but this is an obvious choice for DNA to be found. Yes, no.
Absolutely. Points of contact, Nancy. That's what we're looking for. And if any of these idiots did not have gloves on, okay, something people don't understand about body bags. These nylon handles are very coarse, okay? And so you have a weave that's in there. So this transference of, say, touch DNA that might be there would transfer into those fibers. That's why they're swabbing these. It would not surprise me, Nancy, if they had not taken those handles and clipped them off.
I didn't even think about that.
And preserved those. The body bag itself will be
Well, they
preserved,
darn well
okay?
better. That's a perfect place to get DNA. It's got like a consistency of a rope because
it does.
Your sweat, your touch DNA gets down in those fibers. It's a treasure trove of DNA.
Yes,
unless they thought to wear gloves. Then we're screwed. But on that body bag, on her body, she was still wearing the black tube top, which leads me back to you, Dave Mack. Not now, but in a moment. I want to
back to Dave Mack. What's up, Nancy? I'm over here at the Empire State Building, and I'm dropping a feather and a penny off, and I'm going to see which one hits the ground first. Nancy, what weighs more, a pound of feathers or a pound of bricks?
pull up that video of a concert where there is apparently a Celeste look-alike up with his family members, relatives, watching his concert, because according to what we're learning, that concert is after her death. And so that's the concert. But let's see. Is this right there? Is that a Celeste look-alike wearing the black tube?
Why does he have headphones on stage?
Top like her?
I've never seen that.
Is this right there? Is that a Celeste?
What is he doing? Looks like an idiot.
Look-alike? Wearing the black tube top like her? Or are they trying to pull it over on us that she was still alive? Because I want you to check the dates, Dave Mack, while I speak with Dr. Geraldine Utter. But is that concert?
Man, it looks like her to me.
After when we think she's dead. So did they go to that elaborate effort to create a ruse that she's still alive? This is from clips of David on TikTok. She was found in her black tube top. Just Let that percolate for a moment.
I mean, dude, it's what are the odds?
And then, is that a Celeste lookalike at the concert? Okay. That aside, I can't wait to drop that bomb on Philip Dubé. Dr. Geraldine Utter is joining
Philip doesn't give one shit.
us. She is a renowned clinical psychologist specializing in psych evaluations and risk assessments within the criminal justice system. She is author of Mainlining Philly, Survival, Hope, and Resisting Drug Addiction, Aftershock, How Past Events Shake Up Your Life Today. And she is the star producer of Utter Nonsense, a documentary exploring addiction and mental illness.
For sure.
It goes on. Dr. Geraldine Utter, this girl that we keep talking about, Celeste Rivas, 13, possibly 12, and her Hello Kitty sandals that Caitlin Becker just pointed out, when she catches the eye of D4VD, aka David Anthony Burke. And I'm talking about this girl's autopsy report and her missing left eye.
Yeah.
And her face.
Shut up about the eye, Nancy. Yeah, it seems like he probably had a, I don't want to say a type because I don't think that 11 and 12-year-olds can be a type, but a certain look, you know, curly hair, and I don't know. He sucks. I hate that guy. It's a pile of shit.
Being skeletonized and her fingers being sliced off. And he's whining that he's not getting enough rec time in the can. Rec time, my rear end, recreation time. He's not getting enough fresh air. But do you not see the problem with this dichotomy?
It's a big problem, Nancy, but unfortunately, when you work with individuals like Mr. Burke, you see this type of behavior, and it's really telling regarding everything that Joe Morgan's been going over and what we're talking about regarding the autopsy. It's not about anyone else but him. He's not getting what he wants. He's not getting his time. So really, it's really indicative of the behavior that took place leading up to this poor girl's death. She was perceived as a possession. Individuals like Mr. Burke, you see this type of behavior, and it's really telling regarding everything that Joe Morgan's been going over and what we're talking about regarding the autopsy. It's not about anyone else but him. He's not getting what he wants. He's not getting his time. So really, it's really indicative of the behavior that took place leading up to this poor girl's death. She was perceived as a possession, not a person. And when that possession upsets you in some type of way, messes with your narrative, messes with your worldview, you are expendable. And she was expendable. So another thing that I want to point out that I don't feel like we kind of touched upon is I think he lived very much in a fantasy world where he was obsessed with death. To Joe Morgan's point, how many people do you know have body bags that they carry around? One of the lyrics in the song basically says, I killed you and I didn't even regret it. I killed you and you died and I didn't even cry. So what we're looking at here is not so much your traditional crime of passion because, you know, I lost control and I loved you so much. What we're looking at here is viewing a young child as a possession. Something happened in his mind or in his fantasy world. And another thing that was happening simultaneously is the fact that we have somebody that is severely, severely obsessed with death, the process of death, inflicting pain and hurting someone. So you put those things together and we have a young girl, a 14-year-old girl, 13-year-old girl that has not only lost her
There's nothing basically about it.
her life, but she's lost her life in such a tragic and horrific way.
And to thank Dr. Geraldine Utter.
This is another thing that I hate is that in the picture, she's like 13 or 14. And I hate how grown up she looks because that seems to be what happens when young people are abused. And that's what was going on here. This is abuse. There's no doubt about it. There's no consent in the world. That's not what that is. It's abuse. And it makes them grow up. I noticed that in the Maddie Soto case, that last photo of her at her birthday party, it's like they're a child but they're living they're living in a world where they feel grown up.
I just want you to think about this disturbing aspect. I'm sure you can verbalize it much better than me. I just know it makes my blood boil. You can get body bags online for about $70. The fact that he thought to get
they lose their, it's like you can see, especially after the fact, you can see that like their innocence feels like it's been taken, because you know what's happened to them and you can see it in the photo.
A body bag, an actual body bag. It says so many implications.
There's so many legal implications, but look at the psyche, look at the psychological aspect of what we're talking about. You know, this is, yes, is that an indication of premeditation, that this was?
Look at this guy. He's sir, 5'5", 120 pounds.
Planned, absolutely. But the other thing that it tells me is he not only planned to hurt someone or to kill somebody because in his mind they did something wrong to him. Again, let's touch upon that obsession with death, the process of death, the manner in which she died, how she suffered, how she was tortured, and then to take it to the next level and already have a body bag. I mean, to me, it's not just you're thinking about, you know, disposing of a body. You have a fixated obsession with death and with suffering. So that's just the extra layer of what's going to be unpacked, or what people are going to discuss regarding this.
5'5", 120 pounds.
This individual psyche and what's going through his mind.
He's 5'5", 120 pounds, 125 pounds, maybe. He did buy a burn cage, I believe.
There were he and the left ring finger. Is it Joe Scott Morgan? It's the pinky and the left ring finger were mutilated. Also, there were fragments, tiny fragments of blue plastic material in the cuts.
Yep.
Now they get that by taking samples, tissue samples, and they look at them through a microscope, and they can see.
Yeah, he's a pipsqueak.
Unless it's overt and you can see it with the naked eye, they can see tiny bits of blue.
Holly was saying that she may have had a matching tattoo. I don't know that, but Holly was saying that they possibly had matching tattoos, and one of the fingers that was missing might have had that tattoo on there.
Plastic. What is that?
I have no idea. And I've been scratching my head over this ever since this.
How about a surgical glove? Those blue plastic surgical gloves?
Well, that's more rubberized. It sounds to me like it's something kind of firm. If it had been blue surgical gloves, they would have used the term latex, Nancy. So for me, and this is what I do know. And if you go back into the report and you read it, there was actually a criminalist there, and people don't really know what a criminalist is, but it's actually a forensic scientist that specializes in trace evidence. They were physically there, Nancy, at the post. There was also one at the scene, by the way. That's mentioned. They collected those items. Now, this is what they're going to do with those. You know, you had mentioned, you know, overtly, we refer to that as grossly. Like, can you see it, as they say, with the unaided eye? I think they could. They're going to take that, look at it, examine it. They're also going to look at it microscopically. And here's one more bit to this that you might find interesting. I think that they're probably going to do chemical testing on these plastic items to try to see if they can understand the origin. Like, is it tied back to some type of product that's out there? I'd actually had, and you, this is kind of interesting, and I don't necessarily buy it, but I actually had somebody say, hey, do you think that this could be a 3D printed thing, and it kind of came apart as they were using it? I'm not buying that necessarily, whatever it is, I think that came off of this item that's being used to dismember. And no, I don't think it's the same item that was used to stab her with. This has got to be something that's really robust. It's got to be some kind of saw. Now, the trick is it?
I mean, look at him. Look at him. What's he doing taking pictures with the kid?
Is it either a manual saw, okay, or is it a power saw of some kind? Maybe a battery operated saw. And I'm thinking sawzalls. I'm thinking skill saws. You know, we've already heard about a chainsaw that was not used. Remember Steve, forgive me, I can't remember his last name, but the PI, he had mentioned that he had found one at the scene and it had
Steve
never
Fisher.
been used. Yes, Steve. And
That's
wow, what a
right.
fantastic job he's done. He said that
Okay, never mind. I don't want Joe Scott working on here anymore.
that hadn't been used, but that doesn't mean that something else hasn't been used here. Nancy, this is a huge undertaking. If you've never been around the dead and you're trying to take apart a body, I can't tell you what a monumental task is. We work in the morgue. We have all the appropriate tools. You don't have these types of things just laying around the house.
Philip Dubé, today it had been the moment we had been waiting for, a much hyped.
Speaking of the dead, back to Philip Dubé. Philip, what do you got to say, Philip?
Preliminary hearing. And when you have a preliminary hearing, the state brings on a series of witnesses, or maybe just one witness, like a lead detective that can testify to everything the state knows up until that point. And the judge then determines, is there enough for this?
He reminds me of the butler on Scary Movie. You know what I'm talking about? Like the take my good hand
to go to trial, as opposed to, you know, a grand jury proceeding where they hand down a bill of indictment. However, what it actually seems to have been is a 3 out of 10, where it sets the stage for future procedural hearings.
Correct. Right.
What is
Every
that?
criminal, right. Every criminal defendant has the right to have their preliminary hearing within 10 court days of the date of arraignment. So sometimes what we will do prelim is we set an interim date, oftentimes the 3 of 10, the 5 of 10 date, to get the discovery. It puts a flame under their tushy to get everything produced to the defense. If they don't get it all, then they have to file a motion to continue the preliminary hearing. But moreover, oftentimes when they are given this heap of discovery on a prelim date, they're going to need more time to go through it anyway. The DA in the case, Beth Sullivan, said that there are terabytes of digital data to be turned over. And I sincerely doubt that Blair Burke et al. Is going to have enough time between the 3 of 10 and the 10 of 10 to get up to speed on this voluminous evidence. They're going to need more time. But the bottom line is they always
slow it down, Dubé. Slow it down, because in every jurisdiction, they don't call it a 3 of 10 or a 10 of 10. In your jurisdiction, explain in simple terms what a 3 of 10 means.
He's making me long for the days of Dave Mack.
Everybody was expecting a preliminary hearing where witnesses would be called to establish PC, probable cause, and lay the framework for an indictment, for this to be bound over to Superior Court for a murder trial. Instead, it's more of a status conference.
That's the bottom line. The way it works is the prosecution legally has 10 days from the date of arraignment to present a preliminary hearing. If it is not presented, it is a speedy preliminary hearing right. The case is dismissed. So what the defense often will do is within that 10-day period, they trail it day for day, maybe to the 2 of the 10-day period, the 3 or the 3rd of the 10-day period, to hope and pray that they get the discovery so that they are prepared for the 10th day themselves. Never mind the prosecution, but the defense also needs to prepare. And by demanding a speedy prelim, it puts pressure on the DA to get their act together, or this case is going bye-bye.
Well, as far as I can tell, all we need to present to a judge is the autopsy findings and a witness placing D4VD with Celeste at the time of her murder. And I firmly believe, take off your defense hat one moment. How else would they be able to establish?
Or his toupee. He dyes his beard. I mean, let's be honest. And his hair.
The date of death. They have an actual date of death if they did not have a witness.
My hunch is that the digital all died, all her digital devices. She probably had a strong presence on her cell phone with texting, WhatsApp chatting, emails, social media posts and comments, and everything probably went radio silent. And they probably looked at her phone in tandem with his phone and maybe looked at cell towers where they were both pinging and could see when everything came to a screeching halt. And
her going silent, her going radio silent on her social and digital does not a murder prove. There's got to be something else. There's got to be. When you said digital, I thought you meant maybe their text communications between D4VD, David Anthony Burke, and someone else about, we got to get rid of the body, or what, let me tell you what just went down. Something to indicate that was the day of the murder, or a witness to the incident, or a witness to describe what, if anything, Burke said to them. But they have a definite time of death, which in a lot of cases we don't have. And you have to put in your indictment between the days of April 1, 2026 and June 1, 2026, because you don't really know the day. And that will suffice in an indictment. They did not have to give us a date, but we do have a date. So it's either digital communications or a witness, because it sure ain't from the decomposed body.
They may have had a forensic entomologist. They probably looked at the
Do me a favor and hit the like button if you haven't already. I would really, really appreciate
insect
it.
activity on the young girl's body, and they could tell based on the insect activity, the larva, etc., almost down to a scientific certainty when she died. And with
Is that true, Joe Scott Morgan? Because I've never known of a maggot being able to tell time. You might get within a day or two based on the age of the blowflies or the larva, but you're not going to get an actual date.
No, you're not.
By the way, I was going to say thank you guys. We did hit 47,000 subscribers on this channel, and I'm thankful for every one of you. Honestly.
God bless Philip, but I got to tell you, you're not going to be able to set your watch by it. Okay, it's very broad, and and I do concur with Philip. I think an entomologist is going to be involved in this for a variety of reasons we could go into, but you can't. That's not something you can actually set your clock by. You can't look at a maggot husk and say this person died at this particular time.
Caitlin Becker joining us, senior national correspondent of the New York Post and host of a hit podcast, New York Postcast.
Yes.
Caitlin, so today everyone was expecting the preliminary hearing where we're going to hear witnesses. They were going to be cross-examined. Instead, it was a status conference. Ugh, they're painful. I've been in many of them, and it's basically scheduling. But what is going to happen next? And what is happening to D4VD behind bars? He's already been segregated because he's too famous to be in GP, general population. But yet there are complaints already that he's not getting enough recreation time, not enough fresh air. What does he think this is, a spa?
Well, as for what happens next on the legal front, you know this better than anyone. These things oftentimes take forever, and it's such a process to do the scheduling and the staying of things and all that kind of back and forth. But as for what's happening inside the jail, it is not a spa. It is jail. He's not been released on any kind of bail. There's no way on God's green earth that's going to happen. He gets to shower every other day. He gets a phone call every other day on the same day that he showers. So shower day is a big day for him. Only a couple hours a week of recreation time. He's alone. He's not on suicide watch, but he's alone because they think he, as you said, the celebrity status is too high that something could potentially happen to him inside of the prison. So it's not great in there, nor should it be for him while he's in jail. Like, that is what this is. He's not incarcerated long term, but he's behind bars awaiting trial on some of the most heinous charges that you could possibly have. One of the things that was noted is there wasn't any money in one of his in any of his funds. I don't know if that has changed from when he got in there until you and I are talking now, but it's not pretty for him in there, and it shouldn't be.
Caitlin Becker, he is in the same CI Correctional Institute as Nick Reiner. And there have been many, many other.
Oh, dude. Did you guys know that when one of the Menendez brothers was neighbors with OJ in county jail at the time? I always found that fascinating. I don't know why, but LA County Jail is a zoo, an absolute zoo. Thank you. I appreciate that. I always have a blast on there.
Celebrities in that
they talk to each other. They weren't in the same cell, but they were right next to each other and they could communicate, and they did.
That particular jail. So I doubt very seriously that he is being mistreated, or it'd be the headline in the New York Post. We would hear all about it.
So I wonder if Nick Reiner and dumbass David are going to be able to send notes to each other, like phishing notes. Donna, thank you so much for gifting 5 lab memberships. It's very, very kind of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, people would be screaming from the rafters on his team. As you said, Nick Reiner's there. Suge Knight has been through there. Tory Lanez has been through there. It's very similar to the MDC here in New York, the one in Brooklyn. It's like when you first get processed, that's the one where Mangione was in.
Dude, I'm telling you, LA County Jail is massive.
Is in, and that's the one where Diddy was in. So it's very much when you're a celebrity and you get caught doing something in LA, you kind of go to one of these facilities.
Also, as you see at the top, you can follow me on Instagram, JD_the_lab, or on X, you're in the lab. There is no apostrophe because I couldn't fit it all in there.
Facilities, and it's very often that it's the kind of a repeat of different celebrities. So it's not like this is anything new for the facility or for the corrections officers in there.
Yeah, they talk through the toilet.
American homeowner of one protect.
Whatever happened to Dave Mack? Did he just get passed right over?
Equity today. You've been working your whole life and putting money into your home. We wait as justice unfolds for Celeste Rivas, if you know or think.
Celeste Rivas. I hate how she says it. It's like she went to a Mexican restaurant.
You know anything about this case, no matter if you think it is inconsequential, dial 213-486-6890. We remember an American hero, Deputy John Sandlin, Solano County Sheriff's California, killed in the line of duty, leaving behind a grieving wife, Kay, and 3 daughters, Susan, Lori, and Elizabeth. American hero, Deputy John Sandlin. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Well, let's see. That's about it for me tonight. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday night. I'll have something this weekend. I think we'll do a lab after dark. Let me see. We could do a lab after dark tomorrow or Friday. So if you, very informal, we just kind of have fun over there, just goof off and whatever. But if you're inclined, head over. Watch the Peacock last episode. Yes, tomorrow's Friday. Correct. It's Friday night here already. That's Friday. Well, oh, that's true. Friday morning. Or today or tomorrow. Let me see. Who? Pony Girl, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you for all the gifted memberships, the donations, and the likes. I appreciate it very much. We hit 500 likes tonight, which is awesome. And if you're rewatching this, if you're on the replay crew, please hit that like button. I appreciate it. I dropped my phone in the toilet and also gave Otis emergency surgery, and it worked. And I will be posting on my Instagram here in just a little bit, me getting lost in the dark alley. I mean, it was a dark alley. It was a long, dark alley. I'm not bag of rice in it. It's forever unclean. The thing's done. It's done. It's dead to me. Done. It's over. Gotta go. Yes, the Guthrie part's at the beginning. I did. I got bit. Look, I'll show you. And I didn't blame him one bit. I understood why he bit me. I would have probably done the same thing. But look. There. Does it look infected? And then the scratch. Look at the scratch. My Instagram is JD_the_lab. He got me good, man. I mean, it does. It looks infected. Great. Awesome. I don't think it's infected. It just hurts. I'm gonna put some Neosporin on it. I've been cleaning it. Peroxide. But I will put some I will Neosporin tonight. Poor guy. I felt so bad. And then he felt bad and we all felt bad, but he feels good now. He's having a good time. No tetanus. That's a good idea. Maybe I'll do that. I had to do that before. I don't think it's infected, but it was he was not comfortable. It wasn't terrible, but it doesn't feel infected. It actually it's just sore. Like my finger is like incredibly sore. Sucks. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Tanner. Yeah, I got the triple antibiotics. I'm gonna go wash it out. Oh no, we're gonna make the goal. We're making the goal. I think everything's infected too. Yeah, the bone, like the whole thing, it hurts. It's like sucks. It doesn't feel particularly warm, but I don't know. The Black Widow channel. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will keep it clean. NJ the closer. Yay. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Callie Dime, good night. Good to see you. I mean, I could just go to the doctor, but I think it's all right. I think it's okay. I'm telling you, I felt so bad, but when I did it, I had to help him, and I knew the second time, because the first time I got bit twice, and I knew that I was going to get bit the second time because it's oh, thank you Southern Grain, I appreciate that. I knew I was going to get bit again, but I had to help him. Like I just couldn't leave him distressed, and he felt so bad after. And like I said, he's been putting his nose up to it all day. He comes over and he like looks at it. It's so cute. Would suggest telemed. What is that? Yeah, I don't think. I mean, like I said, got me on the side there too. Look, side, front, there, and then the scratch. Nah, I'll be all right. That's what I've heard, Eric. I've heard that dogs' mouths are cleaner than humans. I don't see how that's possible because I've actually watched Otis eat crap before. So, I mean, I've never done that. Y'all have a good night. Thank you so much for being here. Haters gonna hate. Oh yeah, it hurt. Actually, hold on one second.
You're going to have the haters, right? Haters are going to hate. You're going to have the haters, right? Haters are going to hate. Haters are going to hate. You're going to have the haters, right? Haters are going to hate. Good Mary, I swear. I will say that dogs do have some healing powers in their saliva. That's a fact. But you'd have to be willing to let the dog lick an open wound, and I could never allow something like that. But it's true. They really do. That's why they try and lick wounds. It's a fact.
No, it's true. It has proteins, like it has histanes and nerve growth factor that can kill certain bacteria. That is absolutely true. Promise you. I'm not making it up. But it can also give you an infection. So that's a fact. I don't even know why I'm still here. No, I know.
You're going to have the haters, right? Haters are going to hate.
I was actually